today, I want to follow up on the video we did last week. And probably when I start doing this, that's what I'll do. I'll come in and follow up somehow on the video we did the previous week and try to figure out some way to tie them together. I was, in some cases, I loved the video. I think the video was fantastic. And when you contacted me wanting to have a name for it, I think that name I gave you was also fantastic. I love that. Our platform is broad as humanity. The reason I did that because we were talking about the capital side of the equation and the people side of the equation, and I was talking about how the capital side of the equation really didn't excite them thinking in terms of the people side, because the capital side is ready for the instantaneous programs or activities, and seeing me talking about a 50-year pathway out of poverty just was a sense of discouragement for them, and I even said something last week about the politicians are that way also, but I see it a lot of times it's because they need to look good to get reelected. Okay. But now we're dealing with a different set of circumstances. No one said a word to me about the part about people getting killed. A boy got shot last week, messing around with the cop when she tried to deal with him, and she pulls the wrong weapon and kills him. And then after that, a 13-year-old boy got shot up there in Chicago. And, and all of the comments that were made, I haven't heard anyone talking about what is a 13-year-old kid doing out on the street at 2, 3 o'clock in the morning. I haven't heard that. And I just feel that for us to be righteous in what it is we're trying to accomplish, as far as police and people of color and activities out here on our streets, morning, noon, or night now, we got to put some kind of emphasis on the behavior of the person that shot. I'm not in no way giving the person who killed them, the police who killed them, a pass. I think that shooting at an unarmed person or shooting a person over minor circumstances is a crime, and it should be dealt with accordingly. But I want to also know that we're taking time to address the individuals who are the perpetrator of these behaviors that's causing that results. It's causing the results as they end up. But we don't. So someday when I'm having one of these conversations, I'll talk about that too. But the thing that I got near is that the people who saw, I sent the tape to, I don't know how many of them looked at it. It's not their concern. Their concern is making money. Their concern is the creation of this collaborative group, and they're not really that concerned about what's being said. So then when I came up with that title about the bounding of our platform is as broad as humanity. I mean, that's a real true answer. The circumstances we have going on in life are real broad, and we try to answer them with a single stroke of a brush. And yes, you just can't do it. Just like I'm sitting there saying about the youngsters getting, or the unarmed folks, and I can't say youngsters because they're doing old guys, young guys and all, cannot just brush that with a single brush. And if all the emphasis goes into the police officer and nobody's saying anything to the young man who is who is behaving in such a way that it aggravates the situation. I mean, I can't even for the life of me try to understand why a person who is surrounded by police at his car breaks away from handcuffs being put on to jump in his car to do what? Okay, to do what? Go on a across the city automobile chase? I mean, what? It just doesn't, it just doesn't make sense. And we don't say nothing about that. We don't say anything about that. I still give people the benefit of the doubt that if, in fact, logic was being discussed in the midst of what's going on in our world, that there are some people who would benefit from that logic being discussed. So that's where I am on that. Well, now getting back to the folks, I had to make up some decision. When I realized that my main group hadn't even listened to the tape, it was discouraging to me. And, and I kind of went, they were some of the people who I needed to actually hear it. They have a different agenda. So then I started dealing with what they are expecting to do. When I had one of them on and he was talking, I had him on a Friday, and he was talking to me about, he hadn't even seen the tape yet, but he was talking to me about how he was willing to pay people to interview him. That is so demeaning to me. That's such a defeatist purpose. But I know the industry is doing that because their objective is to spend that money or to get that grant doing what they say they're going to do with the grant. So this sense, interviewing people to hear their side of the story is white America's mainstream philosophical point of view for being able to save America. Everybody and their dog is out getting grants to interview people. Well, if people could care less about you interviewing them, they have realized that if we pay them, they'll come. But I'm sitting back going, as a person who works in the low-income market, I am fully aware of the fact that the only reason a person's going to come here, to come do what you ask them to do because you pay them, is to get paid. And so what they're going to do is to try their best to answer your questions the way they think you want them answered so that you won't upset you and they can get paid. But that's not why we're doing that. If the reason we're doing it is because don't go to people telling them what they should do, go to people and ask them, what would you like to do? Then if you walk away with what they telling you they would like to do, with these made up answers they gave you to get paid, then you're going to find yourself running around going, well, it seems to me the number one concern is paying your utilities. Because, see, they know that's what people want to hear. Okay? Paying your rent. Because they know that's what people want to hear. When really, as far as I'm concerned, a person who has his boots on the ground, the number one concern in the low-income community is a decent employment position. A place where you can work on a job and earn a decent income. You have people working 2-3 jobs to survive now. Now, those are good people. I mean, a bum is not working 3 jobs. Come on. Sorry, a bum's not working 3 jobs. So if you got a person, husband and wife, that are working 2 or 3 jobs where the grandparents and relatives have to watch their kids while they're on these jobs. We're talking morning, we're talking evening, we're talking night. Those aren't bums. Okay, so I'm saying if in fact, because they don't have a model to use as a motivation or a example of what life could be, then we naturally should understand and intentionally create circumstances so they can have that kind of model. We can't take the here and now generation, here and now 25 to 54-year-olds and create the kind of circumstances they need in their life for them to be superstars. But we can use the 25 to 54-year-olds and create circumstances for them to live and exist in that can become a role model to the generations coming behind them. So that would be how I would segregate the group multiculturally. Let's take the 25 to 54-year-olds and concentrate on getting them some marketable skills and finding ways for them to be a benefit to the city and themselves and the community by finding ways to create employment opportunities that will teach them to become efficient with those new marketable skills. Now, that in a nutshell, that's it. Okay, so when I started thinking about that this week, and I was going, well, to me, that's the issue. When I had the lady who was the capitalist, her name I'll leave out of this, and started seeing what she had written, how things should be. Once I could get past the negativeness of you can't boil the ocean and you can't make sand castles or whatever it was, air castles, her question was, well, what is it you want to do? And I like that kind of stuff because it makes it really easy for you to deal with, because your question is in your face. What do you want to do? In my case, it's to and being very honest, is to take this document that Project Drawdown wrote on me as being the only person that they've met in America that has a methodology for reaching the untapped market. Okay. Now, that's strictly for mainstream. So we've got to figure out a way to find a program that will attract the attention of mainstream environmental-minded people and organizations who will have influence on funding sources for mainstream. That's it. So I want to be able to take that statement from Project Drawdown and use it as my badge of honor. But I just don't want to throw it out there and say, this is who I am, let's go with it. What I want to do is to take this network that is just on its own farming in my life, from Maine to Washington State, with several stops in between, and seek funding from government, or whatever source my capitalist lady has her hands on to create a research project. Okay. Now, that's was my answer to what do you want to do? Okay. Then she wanted to know, what is it that you want to be seen as doing, or what is it that you want to be known for doing? And I repeated, that is what I want to be known for doing. Succinctly. She gave me a new word to use now. That is not a black word. You don't hear succinctly being used in the ghetto. Okay, sorry. Sorry. I'm not going to tell you. You don't have nobody that ever use it. But generally, that's not a word that you hear used it's here used in the ghetto. So you brought up the word succinctly and looked it up and saw what it was saying, to be clear and concise with very few sentences in explaining your self. So that's what I had done with that first question. And so then I went through the necessary steps of explaining why, and I said, I'm sitting here watching morning news, and they show me a sight of the helicopter flying on Mars. And then they showed me a sight of the NASA scientists, a room of all white people, maybe some Asians or something like that. Nobody black was there. I'll put it like that, period. But they showed a sight of them just full of joy, excited over the accomplishment of flying this helicopter for whatever it was, 30 seconds. And how this is going to be a wave of the future. How they're going to be able to fly these things all over the planet. They'll be landing everywhere, it. Granted, I saw a group, that network that I'm talking about someday, having that kind of joy over being able to have this research. That's what the NASA or the NASA scientists did. They researched how they could do this in time. But having this kind of research on bringing people a pathway out of poverty that is designed specifically to take people from not having marketable skills to learning marketable skills in the job training program, to engaging in some type of a program that pays them while they're becoming efficient with those marketable skills on property that is sitting around idly in the inner city, not receiving any kind of tax money to the city because nobody lives in it. It's vacant lots, it's weeds. They costing the city more money to keep the grass cut than they get out of it. And turn it into a win-win situation by having these people who have learned these new marketable skills, learning to perfect them on a job that's going to benefit the city. Okay, now that's what I think needs to be the direction that we go. I truly believe and know that in our inner cities, in our low-income communities, black, brown, white, are good people. Okay, they're mixed in with people who, for whatever reasons, have grown up with what could be classified as antisocial behavior, snatching away from a police that is trying to arrest you for some ticket that you had and didn't show up in court is an antisocial behavior. Instead of just sitting there and being the man and taking the punishment and getting over with, you decide you're going to break and run and here you end up being dead. Okay, so that would be my intention, to provide those people with a new way of viewing life. Now, granted, at first it's going to have to be intentionally done. And so that's what the research is for. The research is to say, what can I do? I mean, I'm talking teachers that have, if they don't have it, believe me, in every area that needs to be researched, I got something about it. I'm telling you all this. I have never told anybody that, but I have completely restructured the education system in our public schools as a after school function from, I think it went from 15 years to senior high school, 15 years. The reason I think 15 years old is the ninth grade, if I'm not mistaken. I think it's the ninth grade. And the reason the 15-year-old is the place to begin, we have to be able to introduce those 15-year-olds to some kind of independent business, whether it's in the food production area, which most of it probably could be. The landscaping area is another area that a young 15-year-old can figure out a way to get him a couple of lawnmowers and get a couple of friends, and in the summer get out there and start cutting. I mean, literally learning business. It started at 15 years old and it goes all the way through. And every year a new dimension's added. A new dimension of something that can be learned is added. But the reason the 15-year-olds need to be there, you want to try to get them before they turn 16. Because when they turn 16 is when they can quit school legally. And we need to find a way to reach them before they turn 16. Even if they quit at 16, they need to walk out of there with an income producing mentality and not see McDonald's as my survival in life. Okay, so that's why I would love to bring, in other words, bring the network together, and I'm starting to refer to it as the network, to be able to add pieces into the puzzle, regardless of what it is. Regardless of what it is, even to include the spiritual side. I think the sitting and listening to Michael last week talk about Moses and Pharaoh. I mean, I've been talking to people about that all week. I mean, here he was telling that, it wasn't nothing like what I heard, but the part about it, he had a story about Moses and Pharaoh, and I thought that was so cool. And to know that that is the spirit that these young people should be exposed to. Their only exposure to church should not be with mama who's making you show up every Sunday and sit on the road with her. Okay? We need to know that. Last week I talked about we. I'm talking about those of us who are sincerely concerned about the future of our planet, the future of our country. The behaviors that exist. I mean, we had a trial. You notice I ain't said nothing about the Floyd guy. And the media is acting like this is the greatest thing since sliced cheese. And I'm sitting back going, but no one focuses in on the need for job creation. Okay, no one's saying a word about that. And our inner cities are so ripe for it. They're so ripe. I mean, I don't care where you are. Our inner cities are ripe for some type of development. sometimes economic development, to pull itself back together, the infrastructure work. So that's my talk for this week. I'm not gonna go long. I mean, but I wanted to bring us to the point of saying creating an income, of being able to get funding to pay for the research. I think is very important. Not the research itself, but for the people involved in the research. I'm broke and I'm busting my butt. I know good and well. And I ended on this. I watched an old movie about Bojangles. And Bojangles died penniless. And Bojangles never could get accepted in the white entertainment world as a professional. He was always a black, smiling, shoe polish on the face to begin with, tap dancer. And they even showed him, he was on 2 or 3 movies with Shirley Temple. They showed him, that was Bojangles, it was dancing. Everybody remembers Bojangles dancing with Shirley Temple going up the steps, and she was, and he never received a leading role. And then he even tried to get them to give him something else besides the darky that was dancing. And they claimed, yeah, we're going to take care of you. Don't worry about it. And in one movie, they even let him do something where he was walking around like a man, And then when it came time to finish the movie, they cut that section out. And they just talked about it. And what made me look at it, here I am, totally dedicated to what I'm doing. And basically, I'm going through the same kind of changes. And we've been doing that since the end of slavery. If we do what they want you to do, they'll put money in your pocket and let you go out there and be their boy. But if you are really trying to benefit this planet by what you know should be done legally, responsibly, no one feels a need to pay you a dime. All right, that's my talk for this week.